country's extremely powerful drug cartels. Mexico's President, Claudia Sheinbaum, has said the vape ban could pass this year, and because her party has the necessary majority in Congress, it will be enshrined in Mexico's constitution. This comes after the UK government passed a similar ban on disposable vapes just last week. Well, we're joined by Alberto Gomez Hernandez, the policy manager at World Vapers Alliance. Alberto, you were at a protest regarding this vape ban in Mexico last month, I think. So what's the principal argument you're making here?
Good morning, Henry.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me. Yes, the principal argument that we have is that there are over 50 million smokers in Mexico right now. This is obviously boosting cancer, smoke-related illnesses and deaths. And these smokers need to have some tool available to help them quit smoking. E-cigarettes have been banned in the country in 2008. There was a decree specifically banning them and establishing penalties for violations in 2022. And now the government wants to implement this ban into the constitution and to criminalize consumers. And we think this is a huge mistake. It's going to have to be a very bad hit on public health. And is effectively going to criminalize millions of users in Mexico, and it's a huge gift to the black market and the cartels there.
Right, because presumably the government is thinking that if you emphasise that vapes are outlawed and that they're associated with violent crime and cartels, it will put people off using them.
Well, we believe that having legal vapes regulated, where there is traceability, where we know what the ingredients are and if the batteries and devices are safe, is going to encourage users to take up on them and quit smoking and live healthier lives. Obviously, if they are in the black market, it's going to be just much easier for underage or children to access the products, and it's going to prevent many adults from seeing them as an attractive option to switch. And we're already seeing this. There are kids everywhere in Mexico that are having access to vaping products, and at the same time, adults that used to use them and buy them at regular shops to quit smoking are now unable to find them legally. Or not legally, but in a safe manner, and now are going back to smoking.
Okay.
So,
I wanted to bring my guests in to talk to you directly, maybe ask a question of you, and then obviously you can come back. Lindsay, what's on your mind when you listen to this issue?
Well, I'm particularly fascinated by the idea that the leaders who want this to be established in the Constitution would ignore or cast aside the danger of letting this fall into the hands of the cartels, which I think is what you're suggesting and other stories have suggested. So
you make it illegal and the fear is that they will take it up.
Right, that they will sort of take ownership of it on the black market. And so I'm wondering, are there any studies in other countries even that suggest that doing something like this with a constitutional ban, that it would effectively positively impact drug trafficking and cartel oversight?
Alberto, hold that thought for a moment if you would, because Dermot, come in with a thought as well, and then we can sort of try and round it all up.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating story, and Mexico often leads debates about public health. It was one of the first countries in the world to introduce a sugar tax. I'm also struck by why this ends up in a constitution. Why not pass a law? It just seems like a very rigid approach. It reminds me of prohibition in the United States, which is a textbook example of how not to govern, which, of course, was favoured by Baptists and bootleggers for very different reasons. Organised crime made an awful lot of money off this. So I'm really intrigued by why this would belong in a constitution rather than a law that might be more easily amended.
Alberto, to Lindsay's point, is the government able to point to other countries, other evidence from other countries that this is the right approach?
There is no evidence from other countries that this is the right approach. All the evidence we have from countries that have either banned disposables or flavors or any kind of product within the vaping market, all we have seen is that consumers are turning to the black market. We also see this happening in other Latin American countries with similar situations, such as Argentina and Brazil. And in Mexico, where the products are already banned for over a decade now, we have seen clashes among different cartels, different organized crime groups over the vape market. There have been attacks on stores. Stores have been burned and stores have been made against anyone trying to sell the products that is not the own cartels. So clearly there is no evidence supporting this.
Just on the safety point as a final observation, I mean, you talked about it in terms of it being safer than traditional smoking, but there was a study only a few months ago here in this country that said that vaping damages young people's lungs as much as smoking, because they carried out various tests on young people, and whether they smoked a vape or a traditional cigarette, it had a similar impact. So are you sure that what you're putting forward is actually safer?
We are completely sure. There are hundreds and hundreds of studies supporting our view. The most important study is that from Public Health England, which shows that vaping has been proven to be
But
at least
that's 9 years
95%.
ago.
Yes, but all the systematic reviews that have been made in the last decade show and point to that vapes are much safer than traditional cigarettes. Even the health research studies from the NGO Cochrane, every year they show this evidence, and they show that vaping is an effective tool to quit smoking, is much safer than smoking, and it's a desirable alternative for smokers.
Okay. Very good to have your thoughts and your contribution to the programme. Thank you for coming on. Alberto Gomez Hernandez, the policy